All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and call the July 11th, 2017 Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize the board members that are present here tonight. From the Mattaponi District, we have Mr. Floyd Thomas. From the Madison District, we have Mr. Clay Forehand. From the Bowling Green District, we have Mr. Jeff Seeley. From the Reedy Church District, we have Mr. Reggie Underwood. From the Port Royal District, we have Mrs. Nancy Long, and I'm Jeff Black, representing the Western Caroline District. At this time, Mrs. Long is going to give an invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Beta Club.
And with sound learning and with respect to all. We thank you, dear Lord, for those that serve this land, and we remember especially those Marines that were lost in the plane crash. We ask that you wrap your arms around those families and comfort them and give them peace at this time. And we honor the service of all who serve abroad and locally. We ask you now to be with us and guide us throughout this meeting, lead us to wise decisions. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you. Members of the Beta Club come forward to the podium.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are now to the point of opening board comments. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have two brief comments. First of all, I would like to express my thank you to staff and the Board of Supervisors for their expression of sympathy. It was much appreciated by my wife. And I do have a presentation from Mr. Donald Curry, who has a commemorative 9/11 flag. And if we could add him to the agenda, I hate to go ahead of the Beta Club, but first, because I think that's something they should see.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And that's it, Mr. Thomas?
That's it. Thank
Okay. Mr. Forehand.
Just wanted to give a reminder that the county fair starts tomorrow night, runs through Saturday evening. Second point, and Sheriff, I'm not sure if you were going to announce this or not or present it regarding the safe exchange zone. Okay. The safe exchange zone at Old Ladysmith Elementary is now functional, and I think we're going to try to meet on Friday if we can get our logistics straight, just to officially open that up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forehand. Mr. Seeley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to thank the staff of Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Beard, and Mr. Culley. We attended Bowling Green Town Council meeting, talked about economic development in the World War I, World War II events past and the ones upcoming. And I'd just like to thank them for all their assistance that evening. And also, along with Mr. Forehand, remind everybody that the county fair starts tomorrow and runs through Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have two brief comments. That's okay. I'm loud enough, I guess. On Saturday, I attended the Caroline Christian Health Center fundraiser, and I must tell you, Dr. T is doing some great work in the county for our seniors and those people who do not have health insurance, and I really applaud the effort. It was a great evening, and I was glad to go to that event. Secondly, I'd like to thank staff, particularly Mr. Shebo, for getting the convenience site repairs underway. I think it's going to be a good thing once they finish. So certainly want to thank him for that. I think the citizens of Reedy Church will appreciate that. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Long?
Yes, I wanted to thank Historic Port Royal and the town of Port Royal for doing their annual 4th of July celebration, and thanks to all those who showed up, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Celia, Mr. Black, and Mr. Cully, and I'm sure there were others there. It seemed like I was there all day, and I still missed a bunch of people. We also ended up the day by housing the new fire engine, so she's now at home in Port Royal, and hopefully will serve this county well for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have several, so bear with me. I'm sorry, I know this is a short agenda. We'll be dealing with the Beta Club later on, but first of all, I just wanted to congratulate what you guys have done. You guys have made Caroline very proud, so we'll have a presentation. I want to reiterate what Ms. Long said, the historic Port Royal 4th of July thing. If people have not been to that before and you get a chance to go to it, it is quite a celebration that they do in that little town up in Port Royal, and they do 4th of July correct. Third thing, I don't know if you guys saw or not, we got in our board packet, I don't know if you all got it, the payment in lieu of taxes. We got a letter. We got a letter from the Department of Interior for payment in lieu of taxes. So this is basically like for national parks and so forth. When in national parks in a county, obviously the county or jurisdiction loses that tax revenue because there's no tax on that land. And they've started the program, it seems, again, the federal government, and they gave out approximately $464.6 million last year, or upcoming this year, and we are happy to know that Caroline County will be getting $128. So that is a huge, huge benefit. So we really appreciate that from the federal government. So what's that? That's an increase. Well, that's good. We have a budget surplus now. Next thing, I do want to Major Mosier. I do not see him in the crowd, but last year the Lake Landor has last weekend I should say, Lake Landor has an Adopt a Highway program where we cover part of Ladysmith Road. And on the July 4th weekend, we scheduled a trash pickup knowing that that would be a tough weekend for people to make, but we were trying to make the community look better for that particular time frame, and we were short on help. And Major Mosier personally was directing traffic, making sure we were safe, and when he saw we were short on help in areas where there was a lot of trash, he got out of his car and he started picking up trash with us to get it done faster. So, you know, Sheriff Lippa, just want to extend, I mean, he did, that's, you know, talk about protect and serve. I mean, he really did the serve part there, so big kudos to him. I want to reiterate the same thing that everyone did with the agricultural fair. Mr. Forehand, myself and Mrs. Long will be sharing a booth, I believe, right next to Mr. Seeley. One other thing I want to talk about a little bit is the 2 weeks ago, I know on our last agenda we talked about, it was in the newspaper, covered about Fred Bus and Fred Transit. And I decided after that meeting that I was going to get on the bus and ride it. And me and a couple other people got on the Fred bus in Bowling Green, and we rode it up to Fred Central in Fredericksburg on the earliest route possible. So the bus was late, and we had 5 people total from Caroline that got on the bus, and 4 of them were going inter-Caroline. So Bowling Green to Carmel Church to Ladysmith, Ladysmith back over. Only one of the 5 people was a transfer to the Fredericksburg area. That raises concerns for me. When we're spending $100,000 to transport, I mean, the people were very nice, but when we're spending $100,000 to transport, you know, what would be, I guess, the commuter time cost. So I just wanted to kind of let people know that that happened. And that is one last, I guess, well, I've got one thing, the Smart Scale project for Ladysmith Road. As you guys know, we got that 100% approved from the state, and then the state told us, oh, by the way, we're going to fund it in 2023. In the meantime, people are continuing to die on that curve out, where Ladysmith Road and Partlow Road met. I did call Sean Nelson and VDOT, and they have tentatively agreed to move that up from 2023 to 2021. So that would be the year after our big Ladysmith Road project. Still a concern. They said they would work with us ways to see if we can get it, but the first big project of Ladysmith Road has to go first. So I'm sorry for all the comments. I am done.
Mr. Chairman, may I add one more I neglected to mention? Yes. Mrs. Long and I attended June 30th a meeting with VDOT. You sparked my memory. The meeting was the initial meeting in King George to talk about how to alleviate traffic problems on 95 going north and south from Washington to Richmond. And what VDOT has proposed is making additional investments in the 301-207 corridor. I tried my best to convince them that people were not going to drive from Washington to Maryland and then come down 301, but that's what they intend to do. We will be, Caroline, the Port Royal, Mattaponi, Bowling Green area will be the last ones that are implemented in this study, which I thought was another fallacy because we would be the bottleneck. And as I told VDOT then, if you look at 301 South right out here and Route 2 North, during a holiday or in the summertime, that's really where our traffic is. So we're going to do the best we can to get them to see how traffic is, but as the chairman's remarks will let you know, sometimes it takes a lot to make them see things a little clearer. So I did want to mention that, and thank you for the opportunity. No problem. I'd failed to mention, congratulations on the press release on the recycling. Yeah.
We need to be at 15% supposedly, and we're at 25%. And that doesn't even include subdivision private, right? I mean, so like the county waste and so forth that comes into Lake Caroline, Lakeland, or Ladysmith Village, that doesn't even include what the people in those areas are recycling. So great job to the citizens of Caroline for recycling. So we appreciate it. And one last thing, Mr. Cully, if we could.
One last, Mr. Black, we attended, you, myself, and Mr. Forehand attended the regional meeting for legislation for upcoming General Assembly session with Virginia Association of Counties. And I think it was a productive meeting. Everybody had different points of view, but we are looking for what the General Assembly can actually help, or what VACO can actually help us with the General Assembly. It was a long meeting, but I feel a productive meeting for those of us that went.
Okay. And one last thing, Mr. Cully, for next board meeting, I was wondering if you could, I got a call from it's not a constituent of mine, it's a constituent from another district. But I would like to just kind of have a kind of information in the August meeting about the county stickers and just kind of why we do them and what the purpose is behind it. And at the same time, when people go into our offices here in Caroline, do we accept credit cards for payment? And if we do or do not, why or why not? I'd just like that as an information to us at the board meeting in August. Okay. All right. That is it for opening board comments. I know that was a lot. We are now moving on to amendments to the agenda. I think we can don't really need to amend the agenda for that thing. We can officially, we can just, is there any other one, does anyone else have any other amendments to the agenda? If not, I will take a motion to
adopt as presented?
Yep.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The first presentation and report is...
That's going to be me.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Curry, I have the pleasure of introducing to the board and the audience Mr. David Curry of Milford. And Mr. Curry is a very conscientious constituent, but he called me the other day and said he had acquired a 9/11 commemorative flag, one of only 300 in the country.
3,000 of them. They flew at Battery Park on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. The Stars and Stripes. The stripes are the list of the names of the personnel that died at the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I would like to give it to the county so that they can put it up in the Welcome Center so that everybody can see it. It's a full-size flag.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. All right, the
And
next.
this is very important for one other reason, if you want to pass that down now. I'll ask Mr. Cully if he could get it to Mr. Wilson and we could display it in the visitor center. But there was actually a person from Caroline who died at the Pentagon, so it means a lot to the county. Thank you again, Mr. Curry.
Thank you. The next presentation is going to be the Junior Beta Club. Ms. Feggins?
Hello, I am Emily Hart from Caroline Middle School. Thank you for all of your support in sending us to the National Beta Convention. It was definitely a learning experience. I was very impressed with all of the different projects, but what I was the most impressed with was all of the teamwork. Whether it was a test like Quiz Bowl, challenges like Tower of Power, or making an outfit as a group for fashion show out of recycled materials, it all involved teamwork. Seeing it all showed me what can be accomplished with a little bit of teamwork. I know that I will remember this experience whenever I work with a team. I can't wait to share this with my fellow betas and use it to help the community. Not only was the convention a great example of teamwork, so was the county pulling together to get us there. For the first time, all of the elementary schools and the middle school worked together to raise the additional funds to get us to Beta. It was a joint effort, and each of us did our part to make it happen. I am hopeful that this joint county effort will continue in the years to come. While I'm here, I would like to give a special thanks to Ms. Feggins for all of her help from detailed scheduling to fundraising. We couldn't have done this without her. Thank you again for all of your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. We have a PowerPoint presentation that's behind you. You guys would like to look at some of the pictures that we brought back for you. This is just a few of the pictures. We were ready to take off. We were excited and we were raring to go, even though we were riding on a hot bus, and the juniors did get the opportunity to fly, and for some of us, that was, well, for some of them, it was their first experience, and that is a great experience to share with a young child for their first flight. We had a wonderful time. Spotlight Your Club. Our team, we had to finish that on site, and that is a board that outlines the service that our junior club at Bowling Green did for the county and for our school throughout the year. That board and our examples of service won second in the nation. So we're very proud of that board. This is the Living Literature team. There are quite a few different events at the National Convention. You have visual arts, you have academic events, you have intellectual events, you have all kinds of different things, whether it be team, whether it be service. And this was an example of a group that came together and represented a scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. This is Madison Elementary. They made all of their props. They got all of their costumes together so that they could represent that scene as an example of living literature. This is our junior beta team. This is our whole team that went. We have our award winners in the front. We have Sabian that won 2 visual arts awards. We have Michael Hayden, who is our national champion for social studies for the entire country. We have Erin up in front, and she is holding our trophy for our award for our club for Spotlight. So we did a very nice job with juniors representing Caroline, and we were so proud to be able to show the country what Caroline students are capable of. And then when we were finished, we got to have a little bit of fun as well. So we enjoyed the opportunity to be able to share those parks with the kids, and just seeing the joy on their faces, whether it's in the bottom right-hand corner, having fun at the sessions, because there are a lot of sessions that you go to, or experience in the parks, or all of the things that Orlando has to offer. These kids enjoyed time with each other, time with their parents, and time that they just don't get, to bond together as a team and be ready to move on to the middle school for most of them next year with some new friends and new associates that they will be able to work as leaders with next year.
Okay, the week after the juniors go, the seniors come in. So there's a one-day difference in the two conventions back to back. And we sort of passed each other on the way. We drove, took 26 high school kids and a few parents, and they didn't want the vans to be partial, so they put Mickey Mouse on the side of one and Harry Potter on the other side, so everyone would be covered. But we set out and drove all night, and they were pushing each other to get into the van to get started. They were all so excited to go. I wish I had included the ones on the way home, because about 30 seconds after lunch on the day we left, both vans were sound asleep, adults and children. This is our Spotlight on Service team set up. At the leadership conference in October, and then at the state competition in February, students have the opportunity to compete in the various things that Ms. Fagans was telling you about. This is one that comes straight out of the leadership conference, and each team has to look around their own community, find a need, and devise a program in which to fulfill that need. We had a team of 4 girls who chose a local family whose daughter had been touched by cancer, and while in remission, the family was still very much drowning in bills. And so all throughout the school year, in addition to the fundraising we did for the trip, these girls were fundraising to help this family pay their bills. And they did a wonderful job, and they received 4th in the nation for their efforts. Okay. I wanted you guys to see a little bit of the sessions. When we talk about, going to a convention, a national convention at this level, we're talking 10,000 high school kids in 2 rooms the size of football fields, and it was amazing. The positive energy, the camaraderie, just the sense of community. The kids are trading pins, they're trading Snapchats, they're all talking to each other about what their own clubs do. There on the bottom right, you see Madison Gillespie picking up the award for the Spotlight on Service. But it really is an enormous, enormous undertaking, and so much positive energy. It's such an amazing thing for our kids, because sometimes in a small community like this, you feel a little isolated. But then these kids get out there and they see, these kids are just like us, and their clubs are doing incredible things too. And holy cow, why didn't we think about doing that? And it was just such an amazing exchange for these kids. Okay, here are all of our award winners right before we were getting ready to leave. The Spotlight on Service team is right in the front. And over to my left is Kirsten Whitaker, who is English Division II, took 2nd in the nation for us. Last year she placed in Louisiana, she placed 8th. This year she placed 2nd. So we were really, really, really proud of her, and so sad that she's graduating and leaving us. But there are some amazing kids coming up from the middle school, so we're really excited. Okay, go ahead. And I wanted you to see that, just not the little ones were excited about the Disney princesses. They were everybody had to run and get their first favorite character. Even the parents got into it. The young lady on the right-hand side said we could not leave out Harry Potter World, so she had to show us all the things that she had purchased in her one day of being able to shop there. And this was just literally a parting shot. One of the girls took this picture on the way out. And she sent it to me, and she said, this is what the week was. And she sent me this picture. And that really was. The kids they came back so energized. You would have thought they would have been drained, but they were talking a mile a minute once we got back to school and making plans again for next year. And for those of you, I don't know how much you all know about the Beta Club in general. It was started in 1934 by Dr. John Harris in South Carolina. It holds the tenets of character and leadership and achievement to be the most important things, but leadership in the terms of service. The motto is, let us lead by serving others. And that was one of the greatest things the kids brought away with, not an I leadership, but a lift you up kind of leadership. And that was the best thing, I think, that they could have gotten out of this whole trip. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because a lot of my kids paid their own way thank you so much for your support, because they could not have gone there without you.
Just as a token of our appreciation, I have some betas that are coming up the side over here. The T-shirt that you see that I'm wearing and the other betas are wearing, that was our shirt, our team shirt for the junior convention, and we wanted to make sure that you guys had one as well, and so that you can celebrate your county pride with our national winners. And so when you wear that shirt, wear it with pride, and they have some for you right there. Come on, guys.
And we want to get some pictures.
Okay.
Bring them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my seniors were either traveling or working. They couldn't be here tonight.
Okay.
My kiddos aren't here. These are her kiddos. She should get the kudos with me.
And you are a sponsor as well, so I know. Yes, ma'am. I got it. Patty. Love go.
I do have one kind of side note is it was a couple weeks ago, I guess, Dr. Parker, myself, and some people from some of the 501c3 charitable organizations in the county met in regards to possibility of doing fireworks for next year and how we could go about raising the money. And one of the things that came up was the Beta Club. And the Beta Club is this fierce, this fundraising machine, so we need to take tips from the Beta Club how to raise the money. So, Dr. Parker was like, that's going to be tough to compete with. So, so I thought that says a lot about your tenacity. So we're really proud of you guys. Next up on the agenda is the recognition of Bob Famera. And when you get elected, or you run for office for that matter, you need people that surround you that are behind you 100%. And when you decide you're going to make the leap into the public office, it's I guess all of us up here have that kind of experience, and maybe someday you guys will be able to as well. But you can't do it. You can't do it by yourself. So anyway, but Bob after I got elected, Bob was like the number one. He had been a planning commission down in Texas. He had actually worked for the Texas Rangers for a while as a clubhouse guy, so he had met A-Rod and some of the Yankee greats, went to the same high school as Joe Torre, so that was a big plus. Throughout his time on the planning commission, Bob would call me a lot of times to discuss county stuff, and he's like, "Come on over, Jeff. We need to watch the Yankees." And I'm not sure if that was relaxation or frustration, as far as whether that was helping out or not. But you're going to be missed. You've done a heck of a job, and I couldn't ask for someone who was a better person to fill that void. You have a ton of respect, obviously, from the other people on the planning commission, and that's why your current position. I mean, you're leaving the current position as vice chair, I believe. Bob is, yes, thank you. Bob is leaving. I forgot to mention that. Bob is leaving because he is moving to California. So to be with his daughter and son-in-law who have taken a job out there. So when I got that call, that was a tough one because he's done so much. So I have a resolution to read, and then I got you kind of a gift. So and then I want to bring you down, Bob. And then for the people from Lake Landor who came and Bob's friends, thank you. But I will go ahead and yeah, Bob, why don't you come on down to the podium, and so I can read the resolution. Okay, so I'm just going to read the resolution. We've also got something here from the Planning Commission, I believe, as well. It says, a resolution of appreciation for Robert V. Bob Famera for his service on the Caroline County Planning Commission. Whereas Mr. Robert V. Famera served Caroline County as the first ever Western Caroline representative to the Caroline County Planning Commission from January 2012 until July 2017. And whereas Mr. Famera has performed his duties as a member of the Planning Commission with distinction, commitment, and professionalism, and whereas Mr. Famera's background and experience together with his interest in planning and dedication to serving his community have been a great benefit in representing the residents of Caroline County during his years on the Planning Commission. And whereas Caroline County wishes to express its sincere thanks and appreciation for the outstanding service Mr. Famera has provided to the citizens of Caroline County and the future vision of the county. Now, therefore, be resolved, the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its sincere appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Bob Famera for his service on the Caroline County Planning Commission and extends its best wishes for continued success in all future endeavors. Signed, Jeffrey S. Black, Chairman. So, thank you, Bob. Let's give Bob a round of applause. I also have a plaque here, Bob, that says, presented to Robert V. Bob Famera in recognition and appreciation for outstanding service to the Caroline County Planning Commission, January 2012 through July 2017. Best wishes in all future endeavors, Caroline County Board of Supervisors, July 11, 2017. And finally, before we go, one last thing. I know we watched the Yankees, and I know you're a little bit of a lightning rod, and you were the first ever planning commission. So I figured since we have a bond, I did get you a Billy Martin, number one Yankees jersey. So come on down.
Thank you.
Come on up. Come on up, Bob.
You know what that means to Billy Martin? He's going to come back.
Yeah. I think Mr. Primero wants to say something, so. Hey, Mark, before you leave, could you get a picture with him with that jersey? I want a picture with him in that jersey.
I'd like to thank the board, and I'd like to thank Mr. Black. It's been a pleasure and an honor serving Western Carolina. One thing in Caroline County, the planning board deals with all different departments, and we have some of the greatest department heads and personnel here. And that's what made this job great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty, we're ready to move. Ready to move on, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a tough set of things to ask me to follow with a dry presentation like this. It's also kind of humbling because, not surprising to you all, I didn't make the Beta Club in high school. I didn't quite make the cut for that. So thank you for giving me a chance to come by and give you an update on our activities over the past year. We've had a very busy year and have enjoyed, again, a lot of activity working with Gary Wilson across a number of fronts. Pam, do I operate this? I do have a PowerPoint and also have a hard copy that I can answer questions from when we're done. As you know, about 2 years ago, we developed this metrics. Probably the couple of things I'll point out here is the growth in the pipeline. You see the end of the year pipeline that's gone from 16 to 29 to 48. That's how many projects we'll carry into this next year. There were 4 announcements this year. The CapEx for those was $93 million, 304 jobs. Of those 304 jobs, just taking the average wages across all of them represents about 14 to 15 million in payroll added to the regional economy. At the bottom, you'll see we also track our growth in private investors. This allows us to stay pretty close to our ratio of a 50-50 funding between the local governments and the private sector that operate within the region. A little breakdown of new projects that actually came in this year. We had 28 new projects that went out. 14 of them came through the state, and then 14 were directly generated by us. Of those 28 projects, we worked with Gary on responding to 20 opportunities that were presented to Caroline County. And of that 20, I would say 12 or so are still very much alive and still very competitive. A little bit of breakdown on the right of what the nature of those inquiries were, and obviously one of the major areas that we handle inquiries on behalf of Caroline is on the industrial side. That's a graph just showing the breakout again. This is an activity report that we do monthly. A lot of the data that migrates to the marketing metrics that we showed you, this is where it comes from. If you notice, the jump this year, all the way over on the right, is visits to the region, a significant increase there. And that, again, is owing to the lag time between when a project comes in and how long it takes us to ever get a site visit pretty well down the pike. So it may be 2 years, 3 years from the first time we touch a project until we actually get a site visit. That's why we want to continue to grow the pipeline. It's all a numbers game in economic development. This was the marketing calendar for this past year. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but if you went back and recall the clusters that we market into, data, cyber, software, service centers like call centers or central processing facilities, manufacturing and logistics, and then public administration. All of these trips are set up around those clusters, and that's what they're targeted for, either the conferences that we went to or where we used a company called ROI to directly generate leads for us. You'll also notice up there we did have two opportunities this year to showcase the region to VEDP. As you've probably read, VEDP has had significant turnover in the last 2 years of personnel. We did get their first new round of site visits or regional calls. Had about 25 people from VEDP spend 2 days in the region. Of those 25 people, 14 of them were brand new to the state. And then, as you know, they hired a new CEO at VEDP in January, and he spent 2 days here in the region in March. Business recruitment, this sort of dovetails a little bit on the marketing, but I thought I'd highlight a few of these for you. Data center marketing, we have stepped up our efforts there. I gave Mr. Cully a flyer. We spent a good part of last year working both with Dominion Power and Rappahannock to identify 50-plus acre sites across the region where power could be delivered to that site without upgrading lines through residential neighborhoods. There are actually 16 sites spread across the FRA region. You will see a number here. This is sort of just the opening page of the marketing piece. There's a significant amount of data we have on every one of these sites that we have been sending out. And actively within our tracking right now, we've got about 8 different data center companies and projects that we're working on. As you know, this has been a priority for the region for the last 4 years, really picked up about 2 years ago. This is the most activity that we've seen from inquiries. I don't think the question is, will we ever get a data center? I think the question is when. So I do think sometime in the next 12 to 24 months, you'll see the region have at least 1 or 2 announcements. We've come close, but this is the most activity that we have had. Of the 4 announcements that you saw that we had this year, 3 of them were because we had buildings. We had available buildings that were 60,000 square feet or more, the largest being the old General Motors facility in Spotsylvania County, which was 125,000 square feet, and a manufacturer has acquired that facility. But the truth is, we're now basically out of buildings. We have 1 building in the entire region that's over 50,000 square feet. I know Mr. Wilson's probably spoken to you all about that. We've all been working on it from a site standpoint. One thing, the state, we have been participating in a strategic planning program. The General Assembly has required VEDP to go across the state and generate a new economic development strategy and strategic plan, and it's due by the end of the year. And one of the things they're revisiting is a program that did exist for almost 18 years, which was a shell building revolving loan fund, which was very, very successful, but suspended in 2007. They are going back and relooking at that fund. CANSAC, this is a little bit different for us. CANSAC is the security arm of the Canadian Manufacturers Association. And in that case, we picked up about 12 contractors who are looking to partner with contractors who are already in the state, and we have been matching them up with defense contractors in our region because it's an expansion opportunity for them to carry additional products that they hadn't been potentially in the past. We don't have a marketing calendar yet from VEDP. We are taking a call trip with them next week to Houston. That was originally scheduled in May, but if you looked at that schedule, it would look like our clusters. We have a data center conference that we're looking at in April in Texas. We probably will make a call trip to Canada, somewhat of a follow-up on CANSAC, and then also expanding it. Canada is a very good market for Virginia right now. This is a slide that each locality has. It's actually something we have updated. As you all know, 3 of our jurisdictions are actually in the Northern Virginia MSA. You all are in the Richmond MSA, and King George is in a CSA, so they're not even in one of the MSAs. Oftentimes, our entire region doesn't even get a look because we get eliminated by the numbers of the Northern Virginia MSA, the tax numbers, the land costs, the wage levels up there. The whole region gets eliminated because the bulk of it shows up from a landmass standpoint in the Northern Virginia MSA. long project to try to get ourselves extracted and all put in one MSA and have a distinct region. We did make some progress this year working with the governor's office, with the Census Bureau, to report the GWRC footprint as a micro-region. So it'll be easier for us to extract our data going forward. But we went to an economist at the Association of Counties. He pulled our region out, of all those MSAs, and did a per capita tax burden. This is a default, frankly, for business climate. And what that shows is we can compete. If we took this slide out, you'd see we're virtually dead even with the Roanoke Valley on a per capita tax burden. How we use this when we go to market is we're as far north on 95 as you can go and have a southeastern business climate. It really helps sort of crystallize it, but this is the slide we use for that. It is on our website, by the way. A little bit on regional capacity. As you all know, 2.5 years ago, we began funding 75% of 6 site audits across the region, one for the University of Mary Washington on some property they own, and then one for each jurisdiction. Stafford has now determined which site they want, and we have just become that audit. Transformation 2026, many of you remember Transformation 2020 under Rick Hurley, that talked about a lot of regional issues like broadband and transportation. Dr. Pano wanted us to pick that up and continue it. If you look at the demographics and generational makeup of the workforce a decade from now, well, it's not going to look a lot like Mr. Thomas or Mr. Underwood or me or Mr. Seeley or Mr. Kelly, for that matter. We're only going to make up about 15% of the workforce a decade from now. With that, and with that generational shift, and a lot in economic development, is you're going to spend about as much time trying to retain and recruit younger workers in your regions as you are to recruiting industry. And you may have read recently where Richmond and Hampton Roads were 1 and 3 in the country in retaining and attracting millennials. We fortunately have some engines with the University of Mary Washington and with Germanna, the activity around some of our military bases to grab veterans who are coming back. But we have partnered with the Chamber and the realtors to start looking at what are all of the issues that we could face and then some ways to address them, especially in the gap between when baby boomers are going to retire and when it appears millennials begin buying houses and having families. So you could have, a lag effect, almost a donut effect within the real estate market, which is something that obviously would be concerning to the realtors and to all of us. Hopefully we would lead to having a forum probably next spring, but what we've done is started organizing focus groups around the region, and we've tried to make those focus groups look like what the workforce is going to look like in 2026. And you get some amazing feedback at those sorts of things. Business Site Ready program, as you know, we worked with Caroline and Spotsylvania to do a site audit of the Oryx Sims property at Thornburg. One of the things that was needed for a next stage, and I'm sure Mr. Wilson has briefed you all, we have pursued a state grant. We were the applicant for that on behalf of the 2 counties. I can't tell you the results of it, but we're waiting on the governor's office to make an announcement on the recipients of the grants. Unlike the first round, where we also received a state grant, that was undersubscribed. In other words, they didn't disperse all the funds that were available, so that one was pretty easy. This one was far more competitive. It was probably doubly oversubscribed based on the funds that were available. We need the wetlands delineation to really define ultimately what's buildable and what is the property worth. UMW Center for Business Research, as you all recall, we in the Chamber helped the university 2 years ago set up a Center for Business Research. It was out of that effort that we produced the commuter skills study, which gave us quite a bit more information on the skill level and the experiences of our commuting population. There are 4 studies that have been completed by the center. Shift share analysis simply says these are your major industries and this is how they're either growing or shrinking as compared to national averages, and then you dig in and try to figure out why, if you're either under or overperforming. Cybersecurity is a deeper dive into the cybersecurity workforce in the region because that is a target industry for us, and we did not know how many workers actually do that work within the region. It is not an easy number to get your hands on, so University, I think, has done a pretty good job with that. Dahlgren impact, we're looking at the broader impact of Dahlgren for the entire region. The payroll impact for Dahlgren, I know this is not going to surprise any of you all. The direct and contracted payroll impact for Dahlgren along the 95 corridor communities of our region is $300 million a year. That's what the payroll impact is. It probably, I don't know what it is going down the Northern Neck, but the effort for that study was to try to really quantify the total impact of Dahlgren across the region. And then cost of congestion, obviously a topic for those of you who go to GWRC meetings and FAMPO meetings, quite a bit of conversation. What we're trying to do is quantify for the individual what the cost of that congestion is. And we hope to have, again, all these studies out by the end of the year. One final thing that we've been working with King George and Dahlgren on, Dahlgren, for as technical a base as it is, has never had a real tech transfer program, taking what is commercially approved for commercialization by DoD and getting it off the base. Aberdeen does a pretty good job of that. Fort Meade does an excellent job of it. Probably the best example in the country is the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, if you've ever been there. And virtually the same things go on here that go on at Huntsville, but there's never been an organized way to take that technology and push it off the base. So we've been working with CIT and with VEDP and with the county and with some folks at the base on how can we set up potentially some incubation, probably more focused on acceleration. How do you help a patent holder get his product to a partner and get it into manufacturing? A couple of upcoming meetings. We are doing a sort of a deeper dive for our investors and partners tomorrow, digging into those 28 prospects and projects, trying to help people understand what were the physical things that those projects were looking for. And then our annual meeting this year, and I hope you all can attend, it's a very different format than the lunches we've had in the past. It's October 25th at 5:30 at the Jepson Center in Fredericksburg. It is more casual. Stephen Murray from VEDP will be speaking. And it'll really be more of an opportunity to interact. It will be restricted this year. As you all know, we've traditionally had a really big lunch and invited all comers. This year, it's going to primarily be our local partners and our private sector investors. So it's a greater opportunity to engage and to share. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I have one.
Mr. Seeley?
Curry, how many 50-acre plus sites were actually in Caroline that you guys looked at or have submitted? Do you know?
Oh, gosh. Are you talking about
In your presentation, you talked
on
about...
this site? It's on here.
Okay.
It's for the data center.
We just got these.
I'm
so-
sorry. Let's see. I think there are two on here. Criteria that was used, 2 or 3. Yes. Yes. You also looked, Mr. Seeley, you would look at proximity to delivery of fiber.
Right, and power.
Yes, it was power and fiber, and then utilities also became a component of that. And I see Mr. Wilson getting up, and I'm sure he's going to want to elaborate on the ones from Caroline.
If I may, Mr. Seeley,
Sure.
the critical component for us, because we do have excellent fiber coverage in a lot of places along 95, was water availability. And one of the things we're doing is we tried to peg in where we can bring reuse water to those sites.
Okay.
We know we have 500,000 gallons of reuse water. It gives us a strong edge, too, because it's less expensive than standard utility water. So that has been one of the critical factors. It's a bottleneck, actually, of data center recruitment for us. So that forms a lot of that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Good to see you, Ms. Long.
All right, the next up on the agenda is the appointments. The Emergency Services Commission.
catch that one next meeting.
Next time? Can I just ask a question on that, just in general to the board? Maybe someone can, if that commission doesn't really ever meet, correct? No, the Emergency Services Commission.
They were formed, really to kind of act as a liaison between fire and rescue and the board. So volunteers would go directly to them first, and then they would come to the board.
But I don't think...
I'm just giving you history.
Right. Okay.
The rest is quite obvious.
Right. Okay. So I was just, you know where I'm going with that. Yeah. Is it something that we need to continue, or if they're not ever meeting?
I think you need to make that an agenda item at another meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's what we ought to do, is actually make that agenda item and talk about it.
Okay. Can we add that to the August meeting then? All right. All right. The next up was the Recreation Advisory Committee. And you saw the names of the people. And I also want to thank, I guess someone, or whoever, put the attendance of the people that have been appointed and how many times they've attended.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment?
Sure.
After looking at the Emergency Service Commission and the Recreation Advisory Committee and looking at attendance, is it possible that we could schedule put it on the agenda to review all of our committees? And so it's because if they're not functioning, then we need to do something different. And specific to the Recreation Advisory Committee, I think there were 3 members who attend fairly regularly, and I think we should look at those 3 to carry the torch then until we find people who are willing to put the time in that's necessary and not disband it, but give those people an opportunity. And if people have something to say about not being represented, then certainly they can come to us and we'll hear that discussion. But there are people clearly who want to do the job, and I don't think we should hinder them from doing the job.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that maybe we need to, the people that are at the 3 and under category, we need to contact, say, you're still interested because we need you showing up, you know what I mean, or... Okay. Yeah, then with someone... Right, okay. Right. That's fine. I mean,
that's my thought.
Yeah, right, that's fine. I just have, and I'll get to Miss, I do have one thing. We do have 2, Dr. Parker, we have 2 school representatives that are supposed to be on this committee that are vacant. And this committee is our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and they are not filled yet. So I guess we would probably want to talk to you about how we would go getting those filled, you know, or some suggestions on how to fill from the 2 school representatives. Maybe, I don't know, I mean, we could throw some ideas around, maybe PE teachers or something to that effect from the school system, but there's supposed to be 2 school representatives on that committee. Yeah, and in the past, I guess Mr. Cully was saying one was a student, one was a staff member. So, but it's something that we can take a look at.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem reappointing my member. She attends. I know she's interested.
We only have 3 that have been to more than 50% of the meetings.
Right.
I'm sorry. Mrs. Long has been asking for the mic. I'm sorry. Go for
Yes.
it.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. Mr. Heimbach is on here as having not attended, but he resigned over a year ago when he became mayor of the town. So, so he gets a pass on this one. It was just never refilled. However, I do have Jacob Burnett, who is willing to serve, and said he will make at least 50% of the meetings and try to do more. Also received the name of Rayanne Bowden, Bowden, in from Upper Caroline who actually called and expressed interest in serving. So I would present her name as an at-large in place of Mr. Hanbach.
Mr. Thomas, did you want to reappoint yours?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and then I will go ahead and reappoint mine. And Mr. Seeley, you said you wanted to reappoint yours.
Correct.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve Davis, Boone, Watts.
Taylor.
and- What's that?
Taylor.
Taylor?
Taylor, Barnett.
Are we reappointing all of them or just the ones that are?
Just certain ones.
Just certain ones? Yeah. So we are approving someone, you want Taylor to be, yes, okay, Taylor. And then you had two, Ms. Long?
Jake B. Barnett and new member Ray Ann.
Okay. That will be something that Mr. Where district is that from? Okay, yeah, I would talk to Mr. Underwood about that first. All right. So do we have the motion? We have a motion on the people that we are appointing, correct?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say motion carries. And then the ones, we still have some that we can, we have about 4 or 5 left that we can still appoint.
In addition to that, Mr. Chairman,
Shoot.
Okay, can you go make that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we remove Ms. Nicole Tillman from the Recreation Committee, and I'd like to reappoint Ms. Schuman.
Okay, a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we should only have about 3 or 4 left, right, that need to be appointed.
could, Mr. Chairman, could we ask Mr. Howard to, in addition to having these people, have at least one town hall where people are invited to come out and see?
I think they're working on that.
Okay.
That was one of the things that we spoke with the last meeting when we discussed it, having an open forum.
Yeah.
Something similar to this, what we're doing, where the appointed members are up here, or at least in a format that have the comments from
Okay.
the public.
I just want to make sure we do that because we've done this for years.
Okay. We are now to the consent agenda. And there's a lot. Does anyone have anything they would like to pull from the consent agenda?
Had a question on I.
Okay. You want to go ahead and ask?
Mr. Schiebel? Or maybe Mr. Kelly? Okay. Were we going to do all of the parking lots? I thought the bids came in too high for us to do them all.
The estimates were too high. The bids came in low.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do them all.
Wonderful.
And we had, once we got the first estimate, we realized with the cost of asphalt and things, we would be able to get it all done. So we got prices to do all the paving.
At the park, correct, they're going to pave all the parking lots and the entrance.
Asphalt,
Okay.
everything we can now.
So does anyone have anything else? You all said, Mr.?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else? If not, I will take a motion to approve A through I.
I make a motion that we approve consent agenda items A through I.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, could we do the closed session between now and 7:30? Is that doable, Mr. Cully?
Okay. All right. I will take a motion then. That's fine.
And then we can go on break after?
Do we have the,
Let's just-
there you go.
I move that this board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff exception of Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia regarding specific legal matters requiring legal advice concerning zoning and building code violations at Four Winds Campground.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and reconvene the July 11, 2017 meeting. We are now at the point where we will take public comments. We have no public hearing tonight, so if there's anyone from the public oh, yeah, that would be, we kind of need to come out of closed session, don't we? Sorry. So kind of forgot about that minor detail. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors certify that to the best of each board's members' knowledge, that only the public business matters lawfully accepted from the open meeting required by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification applies, and that only such public matters that were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board.
motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas, do you so certify that what was said in closed session only dealt with the closed session?
I so certify.
Mr. Forehand?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mrs. Long?
I so certify.
And I so certify as well. Now, we are to the public comment time. At this time, anyone who would like to speak regarding anything dealing with Caroline County or the All-Star Game, that's fine. You may, at this time, come down. It is 3 minutes to speak regarding anything, and the podium is now open.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors, Mr. Chair, Ms. Long, Ms. Hall, and gentlemen. On behalf of the Caroline County Sheriff's Office, I wanted to bring a couple of things to y'all's attention. And Mr. Forehand already started off with the safe exchange zone. Just to make you aware that we do have 3 of them within the county, and I'd like to see the public use them more. One is at the Sheriff's Office, the other is at the Visitor Center, and the most new or recent one will be at Ladysmith. Another thing I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is how hard the Caroline County Sheriff's Office works for the people in Caroline. I know the pay study, I was told, is not complete yet, but again, I wanted to make sure that you all know exactly how hard these deputies work and everyone from staff. You know, Mr. Black, you talked about when we run for public office and the number of people behind you. There's several that are behind me now, and they'll have an opportunity to speak if they wish to do so. But I know that it's too late for this budget, but I want to bring out, too, because we do have some new board members, that there is a COPS grant available where we would be able to, on a grant, get new deputies for 3 years, and then the county would have to pick that up. I'm just pointing out that the last time that Caroline used the COPS grant was in 2001. That all ended in 2004 when I took office. And we haven't since then. So next year when we end up looking at this, please let us know so that we can apply for that grant, as we've asked for school resource officers, investigators, and again, more personnel. Last but not least, as I said earlier, that our people work so hard for everyone. And I'd like, if any time we've got the fair that's coming up, it would mean a great deal to my employees if you all would at least acknowledge them. I know we have some newer deputies. We have a big turnover rate because of what's happening to law enforcement, not just throughout this county, but through the other counties in Virginia, along with the Department of State Police. It's tough to get good people. We have good employees here, like everyone else in the county, all of our county employees. Personnel is our biggest, most valuable to this county to make it grow and to make it flourish. And again, on behalf of them, I point out to you all, I know there's only so much of that pie. Please consider that and not pit public safety against the schools. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Scott Mosier, Bowling Green District. I'm here to speak also on the pay study. I certainly want to applaud the board for taking a stand this year I've come to about 99.9% of the meetings, and I see that the board has committed to looking out for the county employees this time. And I know funds are limited, but I'd like to say that these people that you see here tonight deserve a fair shake when it comes to pay. And I know this board's going to do everything it can to give it to them. And I think that if you could fully fund whatever comes out, that would be greatly appreciated. You know, compression is a huge issue for our department, as well as benefits, but that's another story. So, but thank you for anything y'all can do for the employees here at the Sheriff's Office. That really would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding any issue?
Good evening, Board. I'm Travis Nutter, Lieutenant of the Investigations Division of the Sheriff's Office, and also live in the Madison District. First off, thank you for approving the pay study, funding to do this pay study. I can tell you as a long-time county employee, it was refreshing when I heard the news that you guys had funded this project, and it showed a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. And I just want to point out that when I started working here in Carolina, I didn't start in law enforcement because I wanted to be rich. I knew that there wasn't a lot of money in that job, but I had a calling to do it. I was in the military before, and I enjoy public service. I like helping people, and I think probably all of the members of the board are familiar with me at this point. I've been here for a long time, and as you guys know, and I don't envy your positions. I know you've had limited funds to deal with and a lot of different entities that have to be funded and difficult decisions that you guys have had to make. And I don't envy your positions, and I know that you can't please everyone all the time. The main thing I wanted to say here tonight is just, number one, I appreciate your efforts, and number two, as you guys already know, we went quite some time. I think we went six years in a row without a pay increase. We had some furlough days and and whatnot. And I understand that. The county was in very difficult times. And I will be honest and say that there were times during that time that I considered leaving because even though I don't do this for the money, there are surrounding counties that try to recruit us because they can offer more money. And if they like our skill, they'll come and ask us to go there. I chose to stay here because I love where I work. I've enjoyed working under Sheriff Lippa, Sheriff Johnson before him. I love the people of my office and of my county. And I'm truly committed to Caroline. I love where I am, and I'm not planning on going anywhere else. But I just wanted you guys to keep in mind the dedication we have. And because of our smaller agency, a lot of us have to wear a lot of hats. And a lot of us are worked very hard. And I appreciate your efforts, and I just encourage you to do whatever you can for us in regards to the results of this pay study. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on any issue?
Good evening, Board. My name is David Lipscomb. I am currently assigned as a patrol sergeant to the evening shift here at the Sheriff's Office. Obviously, there's a reason we're here tonight. We have an issue, an underlying issue. I have, just like Lieutenant Nutter, had the pleasure of being here since late 2004, and I very much enjoy this county. I've made my home here. I have a wife and 4 sons that go to our school system here, which I'm very proud of, and I certainly understand the need for great teachers and great education because they are a lifeline for our replacements in the future. I will tell you this tonight, rather than tell you about what it costs to make it, because we all know what it costs to make it, I want to tell you what nobody told me back in 2002 when I started, and that was the cost that would be associated to me in a career in law enforcement. Nobody ever told me there'd be a cost associated with my physical health. Since I've been here, just in the physical side, I've felt bouts of high blood pressure due to the stress of this job, but I enjoy it. I would have no other career choice. But if somebody would have told me back in 2002 that the cost associated with my sleepless nights, with the regrets of not being able to help somebody, with dying children in my hands, the cost associated that would take a toll on not just my life, but the life of these officers and this administration that's sitting before you. There's a total cost that can't be accounted for just in money. I do thank you for the job that you performed, that you have performed throughout your duration here. But I would like to remind you that these are real people. And I know you know they're real people. But these are real people with real feelings and real emotions. And these people, they pay attention to when you ride by and you don't even wave at us. We are the last line of defense. Not you, Mr. Thomas. We are your last line of defense here. Every other county agency has an important role, but we're the last line of defense. In the military, you have platoons full of people. Tonight, I have 2 deputies and me. And if something goes wrong, we're going to make it work because we always make it work. We're going to do it for us, we're going to do it for these citizens, and we're going to do it for you. All we would ask is that you would think about the cost that is associated when we're off duty, the cost associated with this job and our families. That's all we ask. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Evening. My name's Tony Dipp, Sergeant on midnight shift. I worked along with Sergeant Lipscomb. Sheriff Lippa hired me July 11th, 2005. So today is my 12th anniversary here. And I want to thank the Sheriff for giving me an opportunity to work here, and I love working here. As Lieutenant Nutter says, we do not do this for the money. We put our lives in harm. We do things normal people won't do or won't think about doing. But we do have families. We have other people that we have to worry about. And that's our main concern. Thank you for doing the survey. I thank you for taking that opportunity and looking towards helping us. But enough is enough, and I think time is that we need to get a little relief for what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Jason Miller. I'm a patrol sergeant with the Caroline County Sheriff's Office. I'm an evening shift supervisor. I have been here since 2006. Sheriff Lippo saw fit to give me an opportunity to work here. I kind of bring a unique aspect because, like some of us, I come from a different agency. I was already a certified law enforcement officer when I came here. And just to piggyback off what everyone else said, I really appreciate the pay study and the time and the effort that you guys have taken to do that. And also just to piggyback off what Lieutenant Nutter said when he talks about we wear a lot of hats because we're a small agency. We do. Just me, by myself, I'm a shift supervisor. I'm a field training officer, which means I train the new recruits that come out of the academy. I'm an academy instructor, defensive tactics, radar, baton, OC, less lethal. I'm a stinger spike instructor, and just today, I trained today so I could be an instructor to teach all of our patrol units and all of our sheriff's office how to apply Narcan to individuals that may be overdosing off of dangerous drugs. That's a lot to do, and there's a lot I have to keep track of. I have to keep track of everything and report it to DCJS to make sure we're up to par. Captain Crowder is a huge help with that. He keeps me on my toes to make sure I do that. And on top of that, I still have to be a law enforcement officer. I still have to serve and protect. Not only do I serve and protect you guys are serve and protect all of the citizens. I'm actually a resident here now. I moved here in 2016. I live in the Ruther Glen area. And 2014. I live in the Ruther Glen area now. And to top all that off, I still have my police duties. I'm still a dad of 4 girls, and a husband of a wife. And like I said, I just want to thank you guys, and I just felt like I needed to say something, just give you guys just the gist of what one person does at the sheriff's office. I probably wear about 20 hats. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Since I didn't use my 3 minutes, I didn't think anyway. This is your sheriff's office. This is our sheriff's office. A lot of great people that you can see, and wearing of many hats. Just to let you know, the incident that we had at Ladysmith just yesterday, the guy was wanted from Stafford, and we had the sergeant and 3 patrol units out there, and yet we ended up with 10 people out there because, like Sergeant Miller said, we wear many hats. That means everyone from administration went. The captain's here, the major here, myself. When we heard that come in, just to let you know, and again, I thank you for all that you do for us. Okay?
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Members of the board, my name is Joe Crowder, captain with the Sheriff's Office. Thank y'all for taking your time to look at this pay study. We really do appreciate it, and it's definitely forthcoming. I just want to say that you guys have a hard decision to make, and please look into it. The people here do a wonderful job, and I think that every one of you, when you go home at night, you feel safe. And if you don't, you need to let us know. So please let us know if you don't, and take in consideration of these guys doing the good job that they do to make you and your families, when you get home at night, feel safe. That's what we do. And it's very deserving of them to, if you look at this pay study and look at it hard, for the Sheriff's Office and for the whole county. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Stacy Curry, and been in Caroline County all my life, and I love living here, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And served as far as volunteer when I started at 16 years old, and that was in the fire department, and served as fire chief here, and currently serving as lieutenant in patrol at the sheriff's office. Been here 20 years, and I'm on my downslide now with 5 years left. And one of the things that Caroline is facing now from when I started till now is our issues are here. All the issues along the I-95 corridor that Hanover's having, Stafford's having, and, you know, on up to Fairfax, everybody's having the same problems. It's here. We just don't get a lot of it, but it's here. And I appreciate everybody's time. Appreciate y'all doing the pay study. And the only thing that I'll say to piggyback on everybody else is, you know, let's make sure we look at it. You know, I'm on my down decline now, but like I said, you know, doing volunteer work compared to some of my counterparts that I talk to, I'm still volunteering, even though I'm getting paid here. It's a big difference on this I-95 corridor. And the younger folks that you have back there, they deserve it. And I thank you for your time. Good evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? One last time, is there anyone else who would like to speak? I'm going to go ahead and declare the public comment period closed. Did anyone want to make a comment at all? Does anyone want to make a comment? No? Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Black, I do applaud everybody for coming in, and everybody here on the board knew that a pay study was necessary. Mr. Thomas and I have probably been here the longest and probably realize it the most. And we did it for just the reasons you all are here. We need to know where we fall in the region so that we can start taking care of our county employees as well. And I understand that the words that everybody has spoken, I think we're going to look hard at this, and we're going to look for the funds to do this. So again, I hope nobody thinks their time was wasted and we're not listening, but we are moving forward and we are going to be diligent with taking a look at this. And thank you all for coming this evening.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
Sheriff and all the deputies that spoke, we appreciate your comments, and we are going to work. You didn't, I don't have my glasses on, but I can see shapes. You didn't recognize the staff members that are back there, which is, I think, 8 or so of them that I know work in the office that may not always be on the line. You don't have to say anything. I'm recognizing them because I know they do the same hard work that the rest of the deputies do. And I think I see one of the deputies who stopped by my house when my security alarm went off, and he was actually very good and responded quickly. So I just want to say you guys do a great job. We appreciate it, and we're going to do the best we can.
Okay. Anything else? I would just like to, I guess, reiterate the same thing. You know, on the, we do have $500,000 put aside in this year's budget, and I believe once that study is done, that will be implemented this year. That part of it will be implemented this year. So you don't have to wait. Whatever the study says, whatever we can afford to do this year will be implemented before we go into budget next year. Is that $500,000 going to cover everything? The answer is realistically probably not. However, I would hope that the board up here with us is dedicated to continuing to move the needle forward with all of you guys, from the fire and rescue to sheriff's department to clerk of the court to whatever county employees we have. We really do appreciate everything that you guys do here in Caroline. I mean, we're obviously, as elected officials, we're quick to take a phone call from a constituent because that's how we get into office or out of office. But we also need to be mindful of, you know, your concerns, and I think I can speak for every single one of us up here. If there's a concern that you guys have of us or to us, please feel free to give us, please feel free to give any of us a phone call, and we'll gladly sit there and I talk to Major Mosier quite a bit, probably most of anyone, and we'll gladly talk to you about anything. So please feel free to pick up that phone and, you know, have that conversation. If something's concerning you or bothering you, that's kind of what we're here for. So thank you guys for doing what you do. All right. All right. Let's move on to the next. Number 4 on the is the proposed amendments to Department of Fire and Rescue for the stipend policy.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Before you tonight is the revised stipend policy. And I'll just kind of go through the changes because you've seen this policy before, and I'll just highlight those things that were altered per some board discussion at the last work session. First and foremost, we changed the pay structure to really reward those volunteers serving from midnight to 6 in the morning. And we see in our system today that is the area that we don't have the greatest coverage of volunteers. And so we've added an extra $1 to that time period to reward those folks that are serving in that overnight capacity. The second change in the policy is we moved some emphasis from administrative pay onto the operational pay. And you see that by a decline in the amount of administrative pay, and also you got to have your certifications up to date even to receive that as well. Also, we limited the number of people at any one time that could be compensated. So 6 people in a fire station and 4 people on an ambulance, which that represents is 2 ambulance crews of 2 people and 2 fire crews of 3 people. So with that, I feel that there is sufficient funds there to reward those volunteers. If we paid the $1.50 per hour, that would be 36,000 hours. If we paid, if we paid the $2.50 per hour, it would be 36,000 hours. The $1.50 would be 60,000 hours. And our goal is somewhere to have 100 volunteers give a total of 50,000 hours. That would be double the performance we got last year. So I think there are funds ample here to meet that goal. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
I'm going to actually, you mind if I go first? Sure. I just had a quick question on 2B. I mean, by the way, I thought you did an excellent job on this. But on
Now, if you look at 2B, the holiday emergency compensation,
Right.
is that, I didn't see like veterans, I didn't see some of the Veterans Day, and I didn't see Martin Luther King Day. Those are national holidays. And I was just kind of wondering if you, for those particular days, because the other ones, New Year's Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, I mean, those are, I guess I was wondering why
The logic behind that is the holidays you see down there are the general holidays that people spend with their family. Martin Luther King Day is not a day where everybody comes together and has a meal
Okay.
typically, so we have better participation on those holidays. 4th
Okay.
of July, people are out, Christmas, they're home, Thanksgiving, they're home, and they don't stay at the station during those holidays. We could certainly add more if the board would like.
Oh, no,
but that's general
I
rules.
was just wondering if you were just, that makes sense now. I was just wondering why it didn't mirror a national holiday type schedule. That's
Right.
all. Okay. Mr. Forehand?
One quick one, maybe I missed it. What's the frequency of payments?
Monthly.
Okay, was that in here somewhere?
Yes, sir. Should be in the back.
All right, I scanned it and didn't see it. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, last page, the paperwork's due at the 10th of each month, and checks will be submitted after that.
I have, you have a question?
If it's not in there, Mr. Forehand, we'll add it, but it will be done monthly.
I just have one,
Thank
I just have one quick one, and then we'll have a motion. Operational large-scale emergency events, is that like basically governor, state of emergency, or like governor says, hey, state of emergency, blizzard's coming in, or no?
No, it's when Caroline County declares a local emergency.
Local, okay.
So when this board decrees there's a local emergency, it could be impending storm, but the governor may declare a state of emergency for something out west, and it doesn't apply to us.
Okay.
So
All
just Caroline County specific.
All right, sounds good. Mrs. Long?
Mr. Chairman, I would motion that we approve the revised policy for the fire and rescue stipend retroactive to July the 1st of this year.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? I just want to say excellent job.
Thank you.
Excellent job. I think you did a good job on this, so. Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chief, if we can just keep on that recruitment, on that volunteer, keep on going on that recruitment, pushing hard. Okay, thank you. Mr. Shebel, I guess we've got number 5 on the agenda is the fence.
Yes, sir. We bring before you tonight proposed replacement of the fencing between the county admin building and the adjacent property owner. The fence there has become in disrepair. The property owner has been reluctant to replace the fence because every once in a while somebody runs into it from the parking lot and keeps hitting it. So they were concerned that if they put a new fence up and it got damaged, they're constantly having to go after the individuals that would actually hit that. We've looked at this and replacing that fence and upgrading it with a white vinyl fence. We would actually move the fence back about 6 inches, which would eliminate the people that are bumping into it. We have selected quotes for the project, and we've got $4,889 to replace 175 foot of the fence with a 6 foot, what they call a Petersburg vinyl fence. Property owner has agreed to pay for half of this. One of the reasons why we're before the board is because it would actually be installed on the adjacent property owner's property. However, we don't see that as an issue as it's currently on that property and does separate their property from the county property, and it would be a major improvement to the area by upgrading this fence. We do have money within our budget, so we do not need additional appropriations. We would just like for the board to approve us to be able to replace that fence.
Mr. Okay.
Mr. Shebel, do we know how much it's going to cost to put something on there that's going to keep people from bumping into it?
We're moving it back. There's a curb there. We're going to move the fence back.
6 inches is going to be enough to keep people
It appears
from
so. We've measured it on some of your Cadillacs and your LTDs and the longer vehicles, and it looks like right now you're tapping it right about 2 inches. So if it was back 2 inches, more than likely it would clear them. So 6 inches looked like it would give us enough room.
So we're no longer going to do a concrete buffer down the side. Okay, thank you.
Did you measure Bubba's truck with the big hitch up back?
Yeah, the one issue we do have is somebody backs in there, but it's not very conducive to backing into those lots the way it is. So,
Oh, it's at the angle. Okay.
yeah, they're all at angle parking, so, and it's one way going in there.
Mr.
I did
Sheehan.
have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go for it, Mr. Thomas.
Previously, the owner of the adjacent property approached me about buying the back part, I guess, for additional county parking, and I sent that to the county. Is that still on the table or not?
I wasn't aware of those discussions at all.
It's probably still on the table. We talked about it. I don't think you can get many parking spaces the way the lot's developed on that. But I mean, if you would like for us to really purchase that, we could try to draw up and see how many other additional parking spots we could get. But,
No, I don't have a desire one way or another. My only desire is to make sure that the county had considered that when we're talking about this fence, and because it doesn't make any sense to put a fence up and then come back and say, well, we're going to buy this piece. So
It wouldn't
No, the
actually
fence is not
extend
on that
far.
part.
if you're not, okay.
Oh, the fence isn't on that part, though. It doesn't go that far back. Oh, the piece they want to sell is not going to be fenced.
Okay. Okay. Then I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Mr. Shebel, yes, I'm going to ask you to do something. The only thing I would say is, my only question would be is, we're moving the fence back. Is there any way that could be like some mulch put down? And you could talk about Mr. Forehand about his favorite flowers or whatever, but I mean, just something that would be, that we could put shrubbery and so forth in front of that fence or something.
Shrubbery is going to be an issue because the vehicles are currently hitting the fence now.
Oh, that's a good point.
However, we did talk about putting mulch through there so that
Okay.
we wouldn't have to cut the grass and possibly damage the fencing with
Right.
weed eaters.
Okay. And then maybe some some flower type stuff or.
Yeah, we could put some, I was going to say monkey grass for lack of a better term, but it's the,
Yeah.
I can't think of what
Right.
it's called. Laripe? There we
Yeah.
go. Laripe or something that's
Okay.
low maintenance.
Yep. Okay.
If you go with the variegated, it shouldn't.
I would just mulch it and
There's
forget
plenty
it.
of ground cover out there that we could find that
All right.
require maintenance.
Okay. But if
Fence
you
will
could look
be an
into something, if
improvement.
you could look into something.
The fence will be an improvement over the look.
I think Mr. Forehand prefers wave petunias, but I don't know. Anyway, so can I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the expenditure of $2,444.50 for the purchase and installation of new fence adjacent to the county administrative office on Main Street.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a request on agenda item number 6. I've had several phone calls in the last day, and this is far more complicated than the board pack even addresses. I'd like to table this for a month so that to give those of us an opportunity to go there and look at this to understand what really is going on, because it's just not simple. I know.
Is
I
she
wish
from
you'd have
the-
done that a public comment.
Yeah,
But I don't have a problem with that.
yeah, it's not, yeah. This is. Yeah, let's. Yeah, ma'am, come on down. Usually it would be, it's not a public hearing. Usually you would have to speak at public comment time, but okay, just come on down. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, then come on down.
Because I think this might be helpful.
Okay.
You've probably heard plenty. Mr. Seeley's been to our practice at Caroline Family Practice and is well aware of Caroline
Ma'am,
Children's Dental Program.
could you just state your name? Before?
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm Sheena McKenzie. I'm the Development Director for Central Virginia Health Services. And I'm here representing our organization. It's our board meeting tonight, and so our interim executive director wasn't able to be here, and I came in their stead.
Can I just ask you one question before we begin? Where does your funding come from?
About 70% of our funding comes from patient revenue, depends on the year. About 30% comes from the Community Health Center grant from the Health Resources and Services Administration. However, Caroline Children's Dental Program gets no other funding, and that's part of what I wanted to say tonight. The Caroline Children's Dental Program was a program that we took over from the health department when it was threatened with closure some time ago. And the program itself, we took about 77% of the revenue for that program comes from Medicaid, which is what's paying for the children to get the dental services. Close to 17% of the children that we see there have no insurance, and because Caroline Children's Dental Program is part of our community health center, those participants who are unable to pay for the care are offered the same sliding fee. And so children at or below 100% of the federal poverty level pay $15 for a dental visit. And if you've been to the dentist recently, you know it costs more than $15 to get your teeth cleaned. I think one of the things that we had several requests that are attached to this. We were informed that the Children's Dental Program will need to be partially relocated from its current space to its new space, and the new space is much smaller, and so we're kind of being squeezed into a much smaller space at the back of the building. And I did bring a diagram, which Mr. Cully, I think you and Paul have been talking about this, and you may already have this information, but I've got a copy and I can share one with you all tonight. We've been asked to pay for the construction costs associated with that move, and since it's a move that we have not requested, it puts us a little bit more off the beaten track, and in a fairly cramped space that's going to require that we have to build out a space for the compressor to run the dental equipment. And so well, I'll finish my thing and then get to my questions. We've also been informed that we're going to need to start paying an annual lease of approximately $25,000 a year. And of that, $9,000 is for common space. That includes the hall that our patients have to, and staff walk through from the front door of the building to get to the practice itself, and to be able to use the bathroom and the break room to give our 4 employees somewhere to go. As was pointed out in the information that I sent in the board packet, Central Virginia did take over this program because it was threatened with closure. I've already talked to you about the payer mix that we have at this practice and the fact that we do not receive any outside funding except for that patient revenue. And the program's really not a moneymaker. We actually invest money of our own into the program because it is no longer break even. And we believe, though, that the money that is invested by the county into this program is a very important investment in the health of the children in this county. And it's also built on a very positive collaboration we have with the Caroline County Schools, who help us in identifying and getting the permission slips for the children. I have a quick story. I went to meet the dentist there one night, Dr. Barrett, one afternoon, and she was working with 2 patients. The mother of those patients was very chatty, very friendly, and she was talking to me. She was also missing a considerable number of teeth. Her children came out, and of course, like any parent, she was justly proud of her children. She introduced her kids. Both kids smiled, and they have beautiful smiles. And our comment, Dr. Barrett's comment was, in one generation, this is the difference that this dental program has made to the children. And as I have said in the packet that you were sent from us, If you don't have good dentition, it's really hard to get good jobs once you finish school. And dental decay, dental caries, cavities are a leading reason why children end up using the emergency department. So tonight our request is threefold. We'd like to be given the clinical space at no cost, except that for the associated utility costs that we incur, from running the equipment, running the water. We would really like to remain in our current space, or space that's comparable to the space in terms of both size and accessibility for patients. And if we do have to be moved, we believe we should not be charged for that construction costs associated with that move, since the move is not being made at our request. And please understand that this award-winning children's dental program, which has been held up in other communities as a model of collaboration and effectiveness, is threatened again because of the cost burden of the lease and the move to another location. This program has demonstrated a positive outcome for the county's children, and we really do believe it's worth the investment.
Ma'am, could you, we're going to need to discuss this. Could you wrap it up? Would you mind wrapping it up for us so we
I'm
can?
done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right, perfect.
Do you want a copy of the?
No, we're actually, we have stuff in our board packet. I'd like to have a discussion. I don't know if it's the same thing that's in our board packet or, yeah.
Well, this is actually the floor diagram. I don't know, maybe Mr. Cully already has it. And I have indicated on here where the current space is and the changes.
Okay.
We shared all that information with you when we were working with the health department. So that the same drawings that we approved with the health department a year and a half ago are these same drawings. And that Dr. Barrett needed to move was more than a year ago. So a lot of the information, while still relevant, has been shared with the dental clinic since they took it over. So part of it.
Actually, we weren't part of the initial discussions somewhere.
Mr. Rod Manifold,
yes,
who's no longer here.
Yes, ma'am. Would you mind?
I mean,
Yes.
and there was a gap in communication.
Ma'am, would you mind having a seat while we can discuss this, and then if we have some questions, we'll ask.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we have communicated all that to them, and she's right. There's some gap that it didn't move from Rod Manifold, their executive director, and who was tragically killed in January. But I have the emails that back that up, because he was very confused, because he thought he was getting it rent-free forever, and the board was very specific. He got it rent-free for a year. And so we had some conversations and emails, and I even said I have the audio of that because I sent him the minutes. And so, yeah, we've been communicating a long time. Now, whether it moved to anybody else in the organization, but I was working with Rod Manifold. Rod Manifold's no longer here. I'm working with the new lady, Paula, and trying to resolve this issue. And certainly the pleasure of the board, if you don't want to charge them rent, we've worked out the floor plan with the health department. So if you want to go back and change that, then that's got to go back to the Department of General Services. And yes, as the health department is dictating, trying to create two separate areas in this one building that was designed from the get-go is all health department, including the dental clinic, because the health department and the dental clinic were one and the same. But now that they are two separate organizations, the health department's trying to push the dental clinic to one side of the building. And while I know that's not convenient, I don't know exactly what we do with the health department. They're the ones paying, and currently right now paying, what, $89,000 a year in rent. They're the ones paying the rent. So these folks don't want to pay rent. If the health department moves out, we're going to have a huge building we're not getting any rent off of. So we have to try to massage both parties, which we've had numerous meetings. I've had quite much staff, including the building official, trying to figure out what we could do, can't do, where we can go. And they were very intertwined because it was all one agency, and it's very hard to unravel them into two separate agencies when you can't really move the dentist chairs, because we ended up with 4 rooms up on another hall, but there's an outside door. We're going to get to those, so we're not going to be in the health department. We're not going to be in the dental clinic. But I can't really give that to the dental clinic unless they come outside and come around and get to it. So it's very and I would gladly take anybody down there and give you a tour of the issues that we face. And certainly we'll, if you would prefer that we build the walls and do the construction that needs to be done for the dental clinic, we can. I'm working a deal that the health department's paying for their changes. So we were just telling everybody the same thing on both parties, but we can treat them different if that's what the board, desires.
Mr. Thomas, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say that this program is very important to the county. I didn't ask how many people who are above the poverty line take advantage of it, but I'm sure Dr. Parker could have told us. The county has saved this program not once, but at least twice. And I think we need to save it again to make sure. There may be some other space issues that we could utilize rather than have them there. But I understand the point of if we don't have the health department, we don't have any revenue, which helps us pay the note here. But we want to win-win in that situation. We want to get some revenue from the health department, keep this program because it's part of what made us an all-American city. And when the health department tried to back charge us for doing nothing, we stepped up and saved the program again with your help. So that's my point. I know we can't solve it tonight, but I just want to make sure we understand the importance.
I just had a question, and maybe I thought I saw in here where they were trying to get a $9,000 reduction from 25 to 16.
The last time we met was generated by, they didn't want to be in the shared space. So there are these areas, there's a break room, a conference room, and 2 staff bathrooms that you go down a back hall, up a set of steps, and you're up in the area that the health department wants to have exclusive right to. Dr. Barrett's office is up there. They want her to move out. They want to use that office. And like I said, they're going to give up 4 offices to save rent because they don't want to pay us rent because they did a needs study, the state, not locally, and they don't need all the square footage that's in the building. So we had a meeting down there to figure out was there any way to build what they needed so they didn't have to have that shared space. At the end of the day, with Mr. Whiteman and Mr. Schiebel and Mr. Mike Allen, we said we could support to the county, to the board, reducing their rent by $9,000 for all the shared space. But it would have to be their request. And so that's the way we left it. And they said, yeah, that was workable. They could still use the conference room because I have permission from it's in the lease for the health department for them to have that shared space so that we don't charge them for it. It's not a problem. I have that. What I don't have in the lease is for them to keep other areas in that. That would have to go back into negotiations with the health department. And so that's the way we left it. I thought they were asking for a $9,000 reduction in their rent. They've since written a letter to you that they don't want to pay any rent, which is fine. That's easy to do. The tough thing is to change the floor plan different than what's there on the ground. So if they want to change that, that's a renegotiation with the health department. And they wouldn't come to the meeting. We tried to get, Pam worked really hard trying to get anybody from the health department, Department of General Services, all the people that had met there a year earlier when we negotiated all the space and all the areas, and they refused to come because they said it's done. So it's 2 separate issues. Money's one, that's easy. All y'all have to do is say we're not going to charge them any rent. That's fine. The floor plan issue is not just with the county, it's back then with the other rent payer, the one that is still paying the full rent on the whole 100% of the building.
I guess, and the other thing too is it says in here a letter, CVHS understands the need to pay utility costs associated with the practice.
Correct.
And then
but they haven't paid any.
And there's been no payment on utilities, and it says there's a utility bill that's due to the county of $13,000 utility bill. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Seeley, we were going to need to put this back on. We're going to need more detailed time with obviously.
Can I make a motion to table this? And I'm not even sure how long to table this.
Yep.
Mr. Cully, it's probably going to be the September meeting to give everybody time, if that's okay. I make a motion to table this till the September board meeting.
Second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. And it is tabled till September. Thank you. Ma'am, we're going to move on. Oh, you can talk to us individually after, or send an email. Thank you. Next up is the agenda item number 7, replacement of windows at the Community Services Center.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Staff has been approached by ABM about the proposed alternative storefront window replacement here at the Community Services Center. This new window has a more modern look and is utilized in most new construction today. In addition, it will match the storefront windows at the Bowling Green Elementary School behind this facility. The new windows do not have as many cross members or mullions, which offer a different look to the windows while providing fewer failure points in the window assembly. Fewer joints mean fewer issues. The proposed window framing will be coated anodized aluminum, which will eliminate the painting and color matching issues in the future. The proposed storefront window frames also meet a higher standard to both wind and rain, as they are approved by the Florida Building Code for high-velocity hurricane zone
Mr. Shebel,
testing.
can I make this real easy for you?
Sure.
I make a motion, we accept the change in the windows and move forward.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Motion. Good
Thank
job,
you,
Mr.
Joey.
Shebel. All right. Motion carries. We are now to, I believe, calendar events. Capital update, I'm sorry.
Here, I ran that number, it's not totaled up, my mouse will work. The schools project is $23,757,708 of the $25 million expended, so they do have some funds left, and that was as of June 30th, so that was really the only big number in the capital projects. Under information, you've already mentioned a couple times, never hurts again, Caroline Fair opens up tomorrow night, runs through Saturday. Shall be warm and looking a little bit dry.
It's always hot.
National Night Out is August 1st, so that is before we meet again, the way that falls, 5 to 8 p.m. When we get any other information from the Sheriff's Office about where the events are, we'll try to send those out. There is one? Good. Next board meeting is the 8th at 6 p.m., and that's pretty much, there's a 2-on-2 on the 23rd of August at 4 p.m. in my office that we've got scheduled. I think that's all the meetings we have or special events. Mrs. Hall on vacation.
Enjoy.
You will too.
I guess we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, closing board
yeah,
comments?
that would, come on now. All right, I got closing board comments, Mr. Thomas. Okay. Mr. Forehand.
Looking for something on the roadway plan? Next meeting, possibly? Streets, we're growing crops in our gutters right now.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Shebel's all over that.
I have
That's it.
none, Mr.
Thank you.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Underwood.
I just have one comment, Mr. Chairman. I didn't mention earlier. One of my constituents called me about county stickers. I'd like to put that on the agenda.
We already-
Okay. Thank you.
He called me as well.
Yeah, thank you.
It's already on there. Mrs. Long?
No.
And I have none. So I will now take a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.